Welcome back to another episode of the Life's Playbook podcast. This is season 3, episode 5 of the show. I'm your host, Quinn Jackson. I'm joined today by my co-host, Noah Hawley. We're gonna be talking about a different sport. Different sport today. We're gonna be talking about March Madness, more specifically the Sweet 16, since we are heading into Sweet 16. But we're gonna let y'all know who we think gonna win the matchups and possibly make it to the Elite Eight. So, having said that, let's get into today's episode talking college basketball for the first time ever in show's history. But let's get into it. Before we get started, make sure to download PrizePicks if you guys want an opportunity to show off your sports intelligence. Let's get into today's show. So, it is no secret that March Madness has been taking the sports world by storm. It is the talk of the town around this time of the year, obviously. We're going to break down Sweet 16, talk about the teams that are in it, the matchups, as well as who we think is going to advance into the Elite Eight. Having said that, talk about it. So, first off, Noah, what do you think so far of the teams that have made it so far? What do you think about the teams that have made it so far?
They fought into the season. They earned the right to be where they're at right now. A few of these matchups, who did Gonzaga play? Gonzaga played Houston. I personally had I had Gonzaga winning the whole entire March Madness, but it's Madness in March, so they lost and Houston advanced. But they fought for where they are right now, and it's all on them to see what they do and how they handle it within these next couple weeks.
Which also reminds me, if y'all have participated in making your own custom brackets on the entire March Madness month, let us know how your bracket is doing in the comments below. Is your bracket chopped, or are you still alive and well? But let's talk about it. Let's start with the first matchup. Number 1 ranked Auburn SEC team taking on the number 5 Wolverines. As much as I hate to say it, Ohio State is not in it and Michigan is still in it. Let's talk about it. Auburn versus Michigan. Who do we like? Who do we like coming out of that matchup?
Auburn. Yeah, I say Auburn because Michigan sucks. They may be a better basketball team than Ohio State, but they're not better at football. But we're not talking about college football. We're talking about college basketball right now. So in my opinion, Auburn's a better team. They're going to stomp Michigan.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. I think Auburn not only is the better team all around, but I do think Auburn. I think they can. They won't. I don't think they'll manhandle Michigan, but I do think it's going to be a pretty almost a blowout. I'd say. I think Auburn could run away with this one. I think I like Auburn winning that one too. Having said that, let's move down to the bottom of the left side with number 6, another SEC team, Ole Miss, taking on number 2 Michigan State, another Michigan school. Who do we like coming out of that one?
So I like Michigan State coming out this one. Michigan State has, the basketball background. They have produced a lot of good players into the NBA. And, they are ranked second. So I do have Michigan State winning that matchup.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. I like Michigan State winning that one too. They are a blue blood basketball school in the Big Ten nonetheless. Not the best at football, but when it comes to basketball, they show up and they show out. So I like Michigan State winning that one as well. Moving on to the Florida versus Maryland. Number 1 Florida Gators, coming off of a almost close L to the former NCAA champs, number 8 UConn. Let's talk about it. Is Florida going to get stopped here, or will they rebound from the UConn game and breeze by Maryland.
Yeah, I have Florida taking this matchup. No, I don't really know much about Maryland, but I do know Florida has some decent players over there. And for them to beat a former national championship team and to advance, I do have them taking this matchup.
Yeah, I think Florida. I agree with you there too. I think Florida will regroup from that close UConn game. A very, very rough game for the Huskies. I will say that much. Coach Dan Hurley, but no, great season nonetheless. I think UConn will be back next year, but I do think Florida, even though they looked rocky in that game against UConn, I think they can regroup. I think they'll breeze past Maryland, especially considering that all of Maryland's games have been won by so far in March Madness. They've all been won by 3 points or less. So Maryland, in and of themselves, they're just barely scraping by the teams that they've faced. And with that being said, that brings us to the final matchup on the left side of the bracket. Texas Tech, number 3, taking on number 10, Arkansas. Arkansas on a pretty surprising roll right now in this March Madness. They beat the second ranked St. John's, and they took down Kansas, number 7 Kansas. So Arkansas is kind of on a Cinderella run right now. Could this be another upset in Arkansas's favor?
So usually when it comes down to these Cinderella runs, they do tend to make a deep playoff run within the March Madness. So I feel this game could go either way between Arkansas and Texas Tech. In my opinion, I'm gonna choose Arkansas with the upset.
Yeah, I think I like that. I like that too. I think Texas Tech is a great team, but Arkansas, this could be an elite run for Arkansas for sure. I think this will be the third upset in a row for them. I like Arkansas too. So, with that being said, based off of the left side of the bracket, we would have Auburn taking on Michigan State and the Elite Eight, and Florida taking on Arkansas. That is so far. Again, our opinion is as different as the next guys, but that is so far who we have projected to move on to the Elite Eight, which is the 29th, through the 30th, excuse me. Having said that, let's move on to the right side of the bracket, starting with the last and only remaining ACC team, which is Duke, number 1 seed Duke taking on number 4 seed Arizona. Who do we got? Who do we got winning this one?
In my opinion, I feel anybody's a fool here if they choose Arizona over Duke. They have the future NBA prospect with Cooper Flag on that team, and I feel Cooper Flag's going to leave it out all on the court when it comes down to this playoff run. So I have Duke taking it over Arizona.
Yeah, I think Cooper Flag and them boys are going to be rolling. They've been rolling pretty much all tournament long. Looking at these box scores from their previous games, they've been rolling pretty much all tournament long. I think they'll have no trouble handling Arizona here. I think Duke could, with the squad that they have and with the role that they've been on so far, I don't think it would be terribly crazy to say Duke could walk away with this championship for this year's March Madness, but we'll find out. With that being said, we got the 6th ranked BYU Cougars coming off of an insane win against Wisconsin, taking on the 2 seed Alabama Crimson Tide. Who do we got? Who do we got rocking with this one?
For this matchup, I have BYU taking it with the upset. They did just beat the number 3 team, Wisconsin. And I'm not saying Alabama is a bad team, but I just personally have BYU over Alabama.
Yeah, I can see that. Upsets are much more, especially in a huge tournament setting like March Madness. Upsets are a huge, way more frequent in basketball than they are football. So I would not be surprised either if BYU does walk away with this one. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Bama walks away with this one. But I'm gonna rock with you as well. think BYU can pull another upset. Even though the one against Wisconsin was close, it did come down to the wire. I think this one will come down to the wire as well, but I think BYU could pull this one off. So, having said that, we have number one Houston taking on number 4 Purdue. Now, yes, this is the same Purdue that is not great at football, but just like Michigan State, when it comes to basketball, they show up and show out. So, is this going to be another upset with Purdue in Purdue's favor, or can Houston, one of the few remaining number 1 seeds in the tournament, get the job done?
So personally, this game could really go either way with these two teams. Purdue, historically basketball team, and then Houston, they're the 1 seed this year. So with my opinion, I have it going towards, let's say, Purdue. I'm gonna have Purdue with the upset on this one.
Yeah, I see where you're thinking with this. However, personally, I think I think Houston could walk away with this one. I think I got to rock with Houston on this one over Purdue. Shout out to McNeese for having a great 2-game stretch in the tournament, but ultimately stopping at Purdue. But shout out to them. They were no slouch in and of themselves. But I think I can see Houston walking away with this one. But do understand where you're coming from. Purdue is a great basketball school. And with that being said, that brings us to the final matchup on the right side of the bracket. Number 3 Kentucky taking on number 2 Tennessee. Is this the closest and most balanced matchup you would say?
Yeah, yeah, it's a pretty even matchup there. But when it comes down to this game, it's gonna come close to the wire. They're gonna be pretty much neck and neck the entire game. But I feel that Kentucky is going to pull through and pull out within those last minutes of this basketball game to advance on in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Tennessee again another great football school and basketball school, but I think Kentucky can also walk away with this one as well. I think this is arguably out of the matchups that we just broken down, I think this is easily the most balanced and most again balanced matchup. I think Kentucky could walk away with this one. I think they'll do just that. So, with that being said, we now project for the right side of the bracket, Duke taking on BYU. You have Purdue taking on Kentucky, but I personally see Houston taking on Kentucky. But you never know. It is March Madness, and it is just that, madness. And again, upsets are way more frequent in basketball than they are football. So, having said that, and again, if you guys have participated in making March Madness brackets of your own, let us know how your brackets are doing. Having said that, let's dive a little deeper into these matchups. Again, the Sweet 16 coming up on it starts Thursday, the 27th through the 28th. We'll be watching all those games closely, but let's talk about a couple of these matchups more in depth, looking at the numbers for some of these teams. Let's start with obviously number 1 Auburn taking on number 5 Michigan, the Wolverines. Let's talk about it. So,
So yeah,
excuse me, go excuse me, go ahead, Noah.
so yeah, Auburn over Michigan. Overall, Auburn has been wiping the floor within its previous matchups against Alabama State and Creighton. They beat Alabama State 83 to 63, and they beat Creighton 80 to 72. While Michigan, they beat San Diego by 3 points with a score of 68 to 65, and then they beat Texas A&M. 79 to 91. So overall, I do feel Auburn's the better team. No disrespect, no. Sorry, all disrespect to Michigan. Uh, but I just don't really have them being able to do what it takes to beat this Auburn team.
Yeah, then and looking at the numbers here collectively overall, like on this matchup here, Michigan is pretty much going down the line here, outclassed in every stat offensive besides rebounds in general. Auburn is averaging about about 1.4 rebounds less than Michigan, but I still think Auburn, again, as you put it, they're the better team overall. Disrespectfully to Michigan, since we are Ohio State guys, y'all not gonna make it past Auburn. But you said it best. Auburn is the better team in this situation. We expect Auburn to move forward. Let's talk a little more about the Duke Arizona matchup. Obviously, Cooper Flag leading the way on the team. Expect a big night from him because this is a relatively big game for the Blue Devils. Arizona is no slouch, and I would not be surprised if there was an upset involved. Do you think Cooper Flag is gonna have a big night? Do you think he's due for a big night coming off of an 18-point game?
You know, he is a future NBA star by what he's showing right now in college, and he has everything to prove within this playoff run. You know, to help not really to help improve his draft prospect. And if he does perform how he's supposed to, he could secure his number one spot within the NBA draft. So I feel he's gonna leave everything he has out on the court within this run.
Yeah, I think he's due for a big game as well. He's his field goal and 3 point his field goal and 3 point numbers are pretty good given what they are. He's averaging around 50% from the field and 40% 3 point shooting. So he's definitely and he's got the most minutes out of the entire roster, coming in at just a half hour, 30 minutes. He's definitely gonna have a big game against Arizona. Again, I would not be surprised if there were any upsets. And again, our opinion is as different as the next guys, but we think the Blue Devils could handle Arizona and move on to the Elite Eight. Having said that, we're gonna go back to the left side of the bracket. We're gonna talk about the Florida Maryland matchup because again, Florida is coming off of that close rocky win against UConn. Shout out to UConn, the former reigning NCAA champs. But again, do you think the Gators could bounce back from a close game like that? Obviously, we the media we have question marks raised about Florida, seeing what they've done so far. Do you think Florida can regroup, prove the doubters wrong, and have a big night against Maryland?
Yeah. So looking back at these scores, Maryland they beat the number 13 ranked team Grand Canyon with a score of 81-49, but they beat the number 12 rated team with a score of 72-71, which is kind of close for Maryland being the number 4 rated team on this bracket. And then looking at Florida's scores, they beat Norfolk State with a score of 95-69, and then they did beat UConn, which is a historic basketball team. There's a lot of history behind the UConn Huskies. Like getting a win over the Huskies, I don't really see the doubt towards them. Besides Florida being the number one ranked team, but being a historic basketball team by 3, that's pretty good. Especially because UConn usually has deep runs within these playoffs within these years. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with Florida over Maryland.
Yeah, very surprising run by UConn. You're right. They are a basketball blue blood school. They're decent at football. They're decent at football, but basketball is definitely where they shine, both in men's and women's college basketball. But you're right. The question marks, they are just that. I don't know why we the media have slight doubts on Florida. I mean, UConn it's a great team. Granted, they are the eighth seed. They were ranked eighth in the bracket, so that could be why. But they're still a great team nonetheless, despite how the score looked and despite how low compared to Florida they were ranked. But I think Florida, they're due for a huge bounce back to officially close the door on those question marks. And talking about the last and final matchup, Houston versus Purdue. You're still rocking with Purdue here.
So Purdue, looking at these scores, Purdue beat High Point with a score of 75-63, and then they did beat the Cinderella team, McNeese State, 76-62. Houston, they beat the number 16 ranked team. How the freak do you say that? Suey. All right, and then they beat Gonzaga. Yeah, Purdue is another historic basketball team. Not really great at football, and I don't know. I just have an upset happening here within Houston.
Yeah, I can see that. But I think Houston with that quality win over Gonzaga, because Gonzaga is also another one of those big basketball schools. I think, and given the score the numbers that they ran up on Edwardsville, I think Houston can definitely put Purdue put Purdue to bed here. But again, I wouldn't be surprised, going your route if Purdue, lands an upset here, because upsets, again, can't stress this enough, are way more frequent in basketball than they are football. And a lot of these schools on here are huge basketball blue bloods. So I wouldn't be surprised if any upsets were to happen. With that being said, again, reminder that Sweet 16 starts this Thursday on the 27th through the 28th. We will be watching those matchups closely. There will be an episode on our reaction to the results from that 2 day, really one day period. Having said that, this has been season 3, episode 5 of the Life's Playbook podcast. It is no secret that this was supposed to be another guest speaker episode. Again, we do not know why they essentially no showed, but we understand at the Life's Playbook podcast that things happen, and we do look forward to having them on the show. But with that being said, it is no secret that this was supposed to be another guest speaker joining the show. Very unfortunate. Look forward to hearing from them sometime and hopefully having them on the show. But having said that, y'all make sure y'all keep tabs on the March Madness. Let us know how your brackets are doing in the comments down below. Let us know who you think could advance into the Elite Eight. And with that being said, we'll catch you guys Thursday for another episode of the Life's Playbook podcast. Till then, peace out. Also, stay tuned for a possible update on merch for the show to be dropped. Till then, peace out.